You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Welcome to the Travel Show.
I think it's a splendid idea.
Podcasting around the world. The UK's best podcasting show for world travellers of all ages. Work of a genius.
It's a podcast full of hints and tips for travellers of all ages travelling to all places.
It's all about getting out and having much more fun.
Hello and welcome once again to the Travel Show. In this episode, we're exploring some of the options open to those wanting to take a gap year, where to start looking, what questions to ask, and also what kind of risks you might be letting yourself in for, and how to balance your enthusiasm and desire to explore the world with common sense and self-preservation. So let's kick off with a chat with two young entrepreneurs, Andy Fiddler and Gordon Bennell, the guys behind the very successful findagap.com website, which they started as a result of their own experiences of doing a gap year. What started off as a paying hobby has now become a serious business as the gap year industry has grown. As such, they have a very clear idea about the different sectors which now go to make up the gap year market.
There's several different defined areas in the gap year market. It's grown from just the typical 17-year-old preschool leavers. Now it's 17 to 25 is the young gappers. You then got your 25 to 35 career breakers who may have worked in the city, been a bit burnt out and now want a break. And then you've also got the pre-retirement, the denture ventures, the media call it, so to speak, where people just before retirement have got a load of money and they want to go off travelling just like their kids have.
Well, let's start by telling me a bit about your company itself, because you're a search engine-based company that supports the gap year market and introduce people to different types of gap year companies. Just give me a bit of background. How did that all start?
It started, I wanted to start up a company when I was working abroad, and I decided it had to be something travel related, as that's what I knew about, and something online. I realised there wasn't much information, or certainly when I was looking for a gap year, about what you could do. So I came up with Find a Gap from there, and effectively, as the Daily Telegraph call it, it's the Google for gap years. So you can basically find everything from cheap travel, hostels, to a volunteer project in Africa.
Okay, if I can turn to you, Gordon.
Yes.
Tell me about the sort of people, the numbers of people you have coming to the site, because obviously the gap year market must be expanding. Is it still expanding?
No, it still is, yeah. At the moment we get just over 30,000 unique visitors to our site a month. We've got a member database of over 50,000. I think it's 250,000 people a year under 25 take a break, take a gap year, so we're trying to capture as much of that as possible.
And in the last few years since you've started and it's been growing, have you noticed there's a trend, a change in the type of gap year services that are being offered?
Yeah, I mean, from our side, there's been a huge expansion in the career gap market. The services have grown. I mean, I think when we first set up, there was maybe 30 or 40 companies that we could see. Now there's over 300 that offer things for gap year people.
And you're not just purely online based, are you? You actually go out and visit people as well?
Yeah, we try to get our presence not only online but offline. That was one of the reasons to get involved with the show. But we also visit schools, universities, or have representation through promotional reps at these kind of places, just to really get our brand out and information about what you can do on a gap year.
Looking at the age of you two guys, I take it it's not that long ago you did your gap year.
Yeah, I mean, it was the gap year when I came up with the idea, really. Most of the gap year industry, if you actually look around, for an industry, has a lot of young startups, and most of the companies, the directors are under 30. They've all taken a gap year, thought they could do something similar or something better, and then they've gone up and set their own company. So it's a young, growing sort of industry, and it's quite a good one, exciting one to be in.
Do you find that that the services, the quality of the services that the companies are offering have increased over the last few years? Not just the range of them, but the actual benefits and the background services and the support they give to people taking gap years?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. We've seen lots of the companies grow from 3 or 4 people to now really big organisations that can offer much bigger support. Gap Sports is a classic example that started off more or less when we started, and now they're sending 300-400 people away a year, or probably a lot more than that actually. So with that comes the infrastructure that can make it a lot better, yeah.
So do you think it's, I mean, a parental question would be, is it safer? Is it still as edgy as it used to be several years ago?
I'd say it's definitely safer, but still edgy. There are always companies that push the boundaries and are doing different things. The choice of thing that you can now do in your gap year is huge. There are companies from scuba diving courses to polo abroad. It's now huge. So still safe, getting safer, and very much still edgy, I would say.
Excellent. And what do you think for predictions for the future, for the next few years? How do you think the marketplace is going to change?
I think the career gap market is getting quite huge. As the fees have come in for schools, I think that the pre-university gappers is slightly reducing, but then they're taking it after university. Independent travel is still going to be the biggest thing. People are still going to go and do the work visas in Australia, that kind of thing. But again, all the projects, especially in the sports area, are developing. There wasn't many sports gap year opportunities a few years ago, and now there's many companies that offer everything from ski instructor courses to coaching football to underprivileged children in Africa. So sports is a big thing, I think.
I can see that appealing to the younger element, shall we say? That what was the term you used for the older one?
Career gappers or wrinkly denture ventures. Yeah,
denture ventures. I must try and write that one down. Denture ventures. I can't imagine them doing much in the way of the sporting side. So, what sort of activities do they take place?
Tends to be a lot more kind of conservation based. There's lots of sites now that offer the opportunity for the career gappers to kind of come together and meet each other and travel around. It's a lot more community conservation based projects.
Also expeditions, say through South America, you can do the Inca Trail, see Machu Picchu.
As well.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is of interest to the older people. They want to go and see that slightly more cultural side.
Do you think the older people perhaps feeling a bit jealous that they missed out at that sort of age range that the younger element go through, and they want to just do something a bit special?
I think that a big thing is they've sent their kids off on their own gap year, and now they want to have a go themselves. So I think that's a big drive why they send that, and why they go on a gap year themselves.
We speak to a lot of people actually at these sort of shows. Kids coming around with their parents actually being the ones that go off eventually and just getting excited and inspired by what they see here. So yeah, it's interesting.
Excellent. Well, just tell us one more time at the website address and any other special things you want to pass on to any listeners.
Okay, the website address is www.findagap.com. Basically, you can go online, find everything you want to do for a gap year. And all I would say is if you're pondering about it, just go about and do it. It'll be the best time of your life.
There are so many gap year and sabbatical project providers these days, it can be quite confusing knowing which way to go, what to ask, and what actually makes one company better than another to meet your own needs. Quest Overseas has been described as the Rolls-Royce of such companies, and I asked Mike Lamb, Research and Education Manager, how and why they got that very exclusive accolade.
Okay, it is a lovely title. Well, we've been around for 10 years now, and the idea when we were first set up was to provide rewarding and worthwhile projects and a personal service to people who came away on it. 10 years later, we feel that we are still providing that, and that's why I believe that's why we might be described as a Rolls-Royce.
Now, from talking to you a few moments ago, we've covered the fact that you actually don't do hundreds of projects, you do very, very select projects, and you're the only people doing that particular project, and therefore your volunteers feel that they're obviously contributing a great deal to whichever area they're working in. Is that true?
Yes, we feel so. Each project we work on, we're the only organisation working there, and we set up with the idea of being maximum benefit to the organisations and the communities and the environments that we work with. So that is the idea. Over 10 years, we've only worked on 14 projects, something we thought firstly might be a problem, so there's only a few of them, but actually something we're very proud of, a minimum of 5 years on each project.
So give me an idea from your point of view what a project consists of, and then a gap year volunteer, how much they would contribute to a particular project.
Okay, so the projects that we work on are community-based and conservation-based. A community-based project, for example, might be working in Malawi, and it might be working on a construction project building what is required by the community, not building what we want to build, not just a classroom because it looks good on photos or because our volunteers want to build it, but possibly building a community room or a feeding station because that's what the local community requires. As part of a contribution that all volunteers will give us, an amount will go to the local charity we work with, And with that, not only will it fund the project, it will fund local school children to actually be educated, and not just the education, but their school books and their clothes. And so the idea is that it is a long-term benefit after GAP team members leave.
Okay, and what's the traditional time the GAP team members are there?
Okay, well, for Quest Overseas, they usually work on a project for 6 weeks and then take part in a 6-week expedition travelling around. So traditionally 3 months, although more and more we attract some university students and people taking a break who want to do it for a bit shorter. So maybe 6 weeks is quite common, but we don't like doing anything too short either, because anything less than 3 weeks we begin to wonder why people are going there and the impact they can actually have.
Okay. Of the projects that you've completed, tell me one that you're particularly proud of.
Okay, well, it's hard to talk about individual projects, but I would imagine the one I'd like to highlight is our Peru Children's Project working in Lima. We have been running there for 9 years now. Alejandro is our local representative who runs the project. We're the only organisation working there. We've worked with something akin to 30,000 children there. We've built various infrastructure projects for them. And basically what we do provide a service in working with the kids over summer, providing support in an area where they wouldn't normally have that. The result of that has been links with the community, has been basically various benefits within the community in terms of building community groups, etc. And the influence of being there for 10 years, you can only really describe it if you visit the project.
Okay, and are you the only people supporting that particular project?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that would be the case across the board, yeah.
Excellent. Which countries are you in at the moment, or what projects you're actually currently working on as we're going into 2007 now?
Okay, so again, we've limited ourselves. We like to think we're specialists in Africa and South America. In Africa, we run projects in Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya and Swaziland. And we also run expeditions travelling around the highlights of those countries. And in South America, we work in Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, Peru and Ecuador. And we've recently set up something slightly different, an underseas project which involves marine conservation, and that's in Mozambique. But specialists are still just Africa and South America.
And have you noticed a change in the age range of people undertaking these projects with you at all in the last few years?
Well, we've been getting a lot more interest from people taking career breaks, people after university, and so yes. I've heard some people say the future is grey as well, so we are attracting a lot more of an older market, and it's great that people are feeling a bit more freedom, that the gap year is no longer the sort of bastion of the 18-year-old or maybe after university. As you'll hopefully see by some of the people around here today, it's open to all.
Excellent. The parental question, or an older person's question, naturally is going to be, okay, how safe am I going to be? How am I going to be looked after? What happens if I get ill? Food, diet, and any other particular medical conditions they might have. What sort of support infrastructure do you have?
Well, I think this is a key question for looking at it from the parents' point of view, but from anyone's point of view. The nature of working overseas is that the safest thing to do is stay at home. It is slightly more dangerous, there's no doubt about that. What individuals should be looking at, and what Quest Overseas can provide, for example, is training and preparation before people go away, so they know they're taking the right kit, they're becoming familiar with the language, they're aware of where they're going, they're aware of all the local customs and cultural beliefs, so that's some way of preparation. That goes a long way. We also provide 2 fully trained leaders, trained in first aid, trained in mountain leader qualifications and various things, but having in-country experience, probably most important, to manage the projects. Managing the projects means A, we're actually achieving what we set out to do, that's very important, but B, probably the most important thing in everything we do is actually everyone is coming home safe. So also, as well as the trained leaders, we have 24-hour contact lines. We have relationships with organisations in country, so we have local workers working for us who can provide that help. We obviously have local contact lists. We have 24-hour cover in terms of helicopters and emergency evacuation, the sort of thing you want to avoid. In terms of preparation, risk assessments, trained leaders, by having all of that in place, you'll avoid 99% of the problems.
And as a matter of interest, have you had anything that did require emergency airlift or whatever from a medical point of view?
We have people who have to fly home. The nature of the adventurous activities we do on our trips, we have broken legs and broken arms occasionally. And what we feel is, as I mentioned, trying to A, avoid that risk in the first place, but B, then trying to deal with people. It's always nice to receive a letter. If someone has had to fly home for something, that they actually get back in touch and say it was great the way it was dealt with. And I think that's a really important part of it. So the idea is that, the nature of running expeditions is people do get hurt, people occasionally have to fly home. We've been very, very lucky in the last 10 years. So we've had a few scripts, but that's I think it's all part of the fun.
Excellent. So what sort of number of people over the years have you actually had come through your hands, as it were?
Okay. Again, the nature of trying to provide a personal service and being specialist in what we do, we work with quite small numbers. We work with between 250 and 350 people a year at the moment, and so in total it's probably 1,800, getting on for 2,000 people that have been away with us. As a result of 2,000 people coming away with us, the money actually going directly to trust funds, to charities, etc., is nigh on £1 million. We'll be breaking that barrier very soon.
Congratulations, that's an excellent figure. Well done. Do you find that the people that have gone through the trips with you and so on, and obviously developed a relationship with the projects they've worked on, do they come back and share with you their experiences later, or have they actually gone back themselves to see how the project's going?
Yeah. Well, everyone who comes away with us, we get in contact just to find out exactly how they got on, which is so important, and it's something that I think anyone who takes part in a service, takes part in anything, you have to give the organisation you go with some feedback about how they run it, otherwise people can't improve, and so we're very open to that. It's great because people have spent 3 months away with us, but also they've spent 9 months in preparation to going away. We get very close to them, and so we always encourage people to tell us where they're up to, because people quite often travel after the project, so it's always great to hear their adventures. Every Monday morning I get in, we have 20 emails from all around the world. It's always nice to hear how people are getting on. And what we actively encourage is people to stay in touch with us, but B, the projects they're working on, and so therefore they stay in touch with the colleagues and friends they made overseas, and they continue to support them. We had someone jumping out of a helicopter or something, doing a skydive recently, and in fact, myself and my colleagues are actually running the London Marathon to support one of the projects we've worked on. So it's really important to foster that long-term relationship. And something else the Quest Overseas will also set up to do is that everyone who goes away with us, when they come back 10 years later, maybe when they're a director of BP, maybe when they're a manager, hopefully the experience that they've had overseas will impact on how they view the world. And that's an important part of hopefully what all the organisations here are doing. That may be some way to sort of progress and educate as well.
That's a very good thought, and I'm pleased to hear that. What would you suggest any parent or person considering doing a gap year should be asking any of the companies like yourselves to reassure themselves they're getting the right sort of attention and the right sort of input into whichever projects they're volunteering for?
Okay, I think the key thing is that there's a lot of questions to ask, and there's a lot of questions that people should be asking. Part of what we do, and with organisations actually like Tourism Concern and the Ethical Volunteering website, is actually to improve public awareness, to make people aware that there are organisations out there who may not be as organised, who may not look after people who are providing a different service. So the most important thing I would say to somebody, either a gap year student or their parents, is to work out exactly what an individual wanted to achieve, and then work back from there. It could be a skiing qualification, it could be learning how to cook, it could be wanting to go and have a few beers on a beach in Australia. Everyone has different things. The key thing is to work out what you can achieve. One way to find out about an organisation is to ask past volunteers. Every organisation should be happy for you to contact past volunteers. Also, if people are going to spend money and time, they're going to invest time in their money, and a gap year time is very important that people are trying to do something useful, is to work out exactly what they're going to be doing. So how are they going to be spending their time? If they're working as a volunteer, they should basically be given a job description. You wouldn't go and take a job otherwise. If people are doing voluntary work, they need to know exactly what they're doing. Organisations should be able to tell people pretty much what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, in terms of money, I wouldn't say the most important thing is how much money people are paying. More importantly is where is that money going? And how can an organisation offer a Christmas special or a free, cheap deal when you're going clearing? Because where's that money coming from? Surely if the organisation has fairly priced what they are doing, then they shouldn't be able to just do a cheap deal. Are the individuals going to get what they're saying, what organisations are telling them they are? Organisations, again, like the Year Out Group, Ethical Volunteering, can help you with directions with regards to that.
I understand you've got a leaflet available from your website. So if you'd like to give us the website address and where else the leaflet might be available from.
Okay, well, Quest Overseas, we're www.questoverseas.com. We are basically promoting a leaflet set up by Dr. Kate Simpson, which gives 7 questions to help individuals pick an ethical placement. So you can find the information on our website, or you can also, Kate has a website which is www.katesempson.com. ethicalvolunteering.org as well, and that's a great place for people to start. Gives them an idea of the questions that people might want to be asking, and any organisation who can't answer any of those questions, I would have serious considerations about what their motives are and how they're running their projects.
It is a sad fact that as much as we may want to travel the world and move from one exciting adventure to the next with impunity, personal safety in all its various guises needs to be considered from the moment we leave home to the moment we return. There are a handful of companies which provide such awareness courses, if you like, and the longest running of these is Objective Travel Safety. With recent high-profile incidents involving travellers in mind, I asked Director Charlie McGregor if attendance to his safety training and awareness courses had increased in recent years.
Well, it's developed a lot across the whole broad. No, we first started getting into training journalists, which we still do, but actually we now train a lot of business travellers going away, our companies, NGOs. The Gap Year one has burgeoned, and I think the sort of catalyst was the Bali bombing. Last year, the murder of Catherine Horton, and we've had some of these very high-profile events that have really focused people's minds.
Well, certainly, I mean, any parent would be horrified if anything like that were to happen. So I understand you run day courses and longer than day courses?
We do, for the Gap Year Traveller, a day course, For adventurers, we do 2 or 3 day courses. We train the long way round, Ewan, Mcgregor and Charlie Boorman, that was a 3-day course. Our journalists come on a 4-day course. So it's a mixture of times.
And what would a Gap Year Traveller... I mean, first of all, is there an age limit at all to these courses?
No, absolutely not. I mean, on our Gap Year Travel course, the average age would be about 22, 23. I think the oldest person is a 65-year-old Swiss man, gentleman who flew over from Geneva for the day. And
so are you getting a fair age range coming to these courses?
We are. We're getting a very fair range. What we are finding is actually quite a lot of in the marketplace are known as sort of grown-up gappers. So people, maybe they've been in a career for 10 years, want to take a break, may have got their job kept open for them, go away for a year, 8 months, come back again. So we're getting more of those people coming on the course, which is nice because you get a nice sort of variety of people on it.
Would you say in your experience then that people have become, sort of say, slightly soft or slightly cosseted in our current national environment, and they need to just be woken up a bit with how things are different?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't say soft, but I think closeted is very much so. As people aren't used to some of the challenges out there. I mean, as I sort of start off by saying, when I jump on a bus in London, it doesn't occur to me to smell the driver's breath or think when he last went to sleep. But in parts of South America or Africa, those are real issues. And I think people are, when you go overseas, you have to do a lot more thinking on your feet. In this country, the police are great. The bus driver will be awake and he will be alert and he won't be drunk. Those sort of issues you need to think about overseas.
What sort of range of things do you cover in the day course then?
The key thing is, which we do with all our clients, is teaching people how to think safe on their seats. So they see a situation, judge it, think, right, can I avoid it, or at least reduce the danger? So getting them thinking on their feet, we give them advice about the Foreign Office, where they think is safe to go, where not to go. A lot of stuff on health, things like malaria. If you get the wrong type of malaria, you get cerebral malaria, it'll kill you in 3 days. So really simple things like if you think you're sick, or particularly if you think you have flu overseas and you're in a malaria belt, do something about it immediately. We talk about what sort of kits to take with you, money, how to carry money, how to change money, dealing with dodgy taxi drivers, corrupt officials, a whole range of things. That hopefully it gives people a more confidence when they do travel. Both boys and girls. What we do find is girls generally, I think, are they know the advantage of girls. They know they're vulnerable, so therefore they know they have to think a bit. We have quite a lot of boys who come along thinking, often sent by their mothers, arriving, what do I really need to know about this? And then you just mention malaria, dengue fever, and they suddenly realise actually they hadn't even thought about it.
How have you found the response from sort of the younger elements? Do you generally find there's actually quite a surprise? Does it put any fear into them?
I think surprise. Fun enough, surprise when we researched the course, we'd all travelled a lot, and there were lots of areas we still didn't know. So I think at the end of the day, people, even by lunchtime, people were saying, gosh, I never imagined I'd learned so much. There's a few at the end who get a little bit nervous, but I do say right at the beginning of the day, I said, look, we're going to cover a multitude of possible situations here. Don't think they're all going to happen to you, but if they do happen, you'll be much better prepared. And we had a girl who came on our course who was mugged at gunpoint, but because she thought she might be mugged, she had been prepared, she handed over a dummy wallet, because she knew there was a slight risk. She had $10 in her shoe, went around the corner and bought herself an ice cream. And that was the course working absolutely perfectly.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I suppose the ultimate aim is to give these new travellers awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Wake them up a bit. Yeah, and give them the tools so they can do the evaluating themselves.
I was going to ask about people that have been on the course and come back to you with any experiences.
Yeah, I know we have people who have, a couple of people have been mugged. We've had people who've got sick and then gone to a doctor and the doctor's managed to sort them out. Generally, happily, most people are, don't come back to us, and hopefully because they had a great time. And, we do bump into people quite often who say, yeah, it was fine, it was great.
What do you think is the big mistake that travellers make when they gleefully go off? I
think with some of them in some of the countries, they assume they apply the same standards as here. So that when their luggage has been searched by a policeman in some countries, they think, well, that's fine, not realising actually there's more chance of the policeman stealing the iPod than there is maybe almost a criminal in the railway station. Already sort of the whole Iraq thing, people focus on terrorism and all that. Our view is the three things you really have to watch out for. First is road traffic accidents. That'll kill more people than killed more soldiers in the first Gulf War than either Americans or the Iraqis. So road traffic accidents, disease and crime. And those are just have in the back of your mind. And a lot of them are so easily avoided.
Do you advise people to take on other courses like a first aid course or whatever?
Yeah, if they got time, a first aid course is fantastic. Yeah, we do about now first aid. We'd like to do more, but the time doesn't allow. Because we think a day is about right. I think if we try to do a 2-day course, you wouldn't get people on it. And inevitably, I guess 40-50% of those coming on the course have been paid for by their parents, slightly persuaded as well. Why do I need to do this as 18-year-old? I know I've just come out of school. I might have got 2 or 3 A-levels. And if we did a longer than 2 days, they wouldn't be aware. They wouldn't come. What is interesting back on the awareness side is halfway through the course we talk about sort of getting into taxis and knowing which way you're going. We always have a debate about whether in the southern hemisphere where the sun rises. Does it rise in the east or the west? And actually on an average course we got 30 A-levels at least on a course, and here we are debating where the sun rises. And it just shows that the school curriculum doesn't prepare people for these very simple and subtle things. You jump in a taxi, the Inca ruins to the east of the city, it's in the morning, and after 10 minutes you're not driving to the sun. Well, is he having you for a laugh? Has he misunderstood where you're going because you're not going east?
Excellent. Of all the people that you've had through your courses, has there been one particular person or a group of people that have done a very, very unusual trip that you thought was quite adventurous?
We've had a few. I mean, I think sadly not adventurous enough. We've had a lad who was, he's in the process of walking from Frankfurt to Istanbul. Another guy who was walking from London to Moscow. I think the former's more interesting. London to Moscow sounds great, but I think once getting beyond the Polish border, as the German army discovered, it's flat and it just goes on and on forever. Whereas I think the Frankfurt to Istanbul would be fantastic. We had a guy who was trying to bicycle around the world, a record-breaking bicycle ride. Sadly, I'd hope we'd get more people going to Africa than we do. The Thailand, eastern seaboard of Australia tends to be the most popular. But people are actually, often we find girls are more adventurous than boys. Sadly, the Central Asian states, the Stans, very, very few people go there now, which is sad.
I've certainly heard that a lot more women generally go than guys.
I think so, yeah. And mothers are very concerned about their daughters. But I think generally girls they know they're vulnerable, so they tend to sort of think a bit more.
You're not based in London, so would you like to tell me whereabouts these courses are arranged?
Yeah, the main courses are run in London, in the Earls Court area. We do occasionally do courses in Leeds and Bristol. But in London, they're pretty much running once a week throughout the year, and particularly in our busy time, which is November right through to February, up to 2 courses a week.
Excellent. And what's the price of a course?
Yeah, it's £150.
That's well spent.
Which, I think it's money well spent. I mean, if you can avoid being mugged and being completely cleaned out, then it's easily, or getting malaria or dengue fever, then dengue fever will take you off the road for a month.
Yeah, so 150 well spent. And finally, of course, your website address is?
objectivegapsafety.com, all one word.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Okay, thank you.
In all the excitement of preparing for travel, rushing around getting currency, gear, saying goodbyes to relatives and friends, and the occasional injection, travellers of all ages tend not to think that sometimes certain bugs or diseases, if we don't pay attention to them, can put us out of action for longer than we might hope. One such story is told now by Joe Ural, who is keen to support malaria awareness for a very good reason.
My son Harry was in between jobs and had the opportunity to travel across Africa down into Ghana and work with some children in a school and a village. He took this on. He actually went at the very last minute. We had a week to sort everything out, and we did. We got up the doctors, he had inoculations, we got tablets, had advice, etc., etc., packed everything in one bag, and off he went. Had a fantastic time, was working with these children, teaching them, playing rugby with them, doing all sorts of things, building work as well. Now Harry came home looking fantastic, came home different person, just showing the benefits of travel really and what it can do for people. But a week later he suffered from a headache. He contacted the doctor, who said, well, yeah, there's a bug going round, but if he gets worse then give us a shout. On the Sunday, Harry was extremely ill with the sweats and a blinding headache. We took him straight to A&E, where he was diagnosed with malaria. He was diagnosed in the morning and they started treating him in the evening. He then got worse and worse, and he died 10 days later. Now, 2 days before he died, we were told he was going to survive, and he didn't. But he was under the misapprehension with his tablets that he was really fit and healthy and a big, strong boy. And these children needed these tablets, and this isn't the case with malaria. People that live in countries where it's a malarious, the indigenous population are used to malaria, and they tend to have some sort of immunity. As Westerners, as people that live outside malarious regions, we do not have any immunity, and even people that live in these countries and travel away after 6 months, they lose their immunity. You just don't, you don't keep it.
What age was he, and how long ago did this happen?
Harry was 20 years old, and we lost him in August 2005.
He obviously had all the right tablets and so on to take with him, and you said that he gave the tablets away thinking that it wasn't going to affect him. Was he the invincibility of youth, was it?
It was the invincibility of youth. It was lack of education about malaria, complacency. But the invincibility of youth is the biggest factor, I think. He saw these little, beautiful children that were suffering badly. And there he was, big and strong, strapping lad. He doesn't need them. He said to us when he came home, when we told us that he'd given his tablets away, we said, well, actually, it's a really stupid thing to do. He said, yeah, but I don't get malaria. Had he survived, he would have had a T-shirt printed by his dad saying, I don't get malaria. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's lack of education, I think, as well.
At the show today, there's obviously young folk going around with their parents. Who comes to the stand first of all? Is it the young people showing interest, or is it the parents wanting to just find out a bit more about this?
We've had actually a lot of young people coming to the stand, which is really it's good. I mean, they look at the leaflet first of all, and I have been tending to say, where are you going? And if they've sort of alerted me to they're going to Africa or whatever, I've said, well, what you need to do is, and we just give them just very general information that's all contained in the leaflet. The parents also are coming to the stand. I haven't tended to speak to them because the one lady I did speak to got upset by my story. So it's more difficult for me to talk to the parents than it is to the younger people that are coming. But they seem genuinely interested in their health, and most of them have got some idea of malaria, but they haven't really got an idea that it could kill them if they didn't take the precautions. We're just trying to make them understand that you can really prevent this.
Well, certainly there's a prevention side, and travelling can be a bit flexible sometimes, and sometimes you don't prepare for it and you happen to go into an area which is malaria infested. That's one of those things. But if they come back and they show the signs of the symptoms, obviously they can still recover from this, providing they've given the right medical information to the staff. Correct?
Correct-ish.
Really?
Yeah, I think time is of the essence in this one. If you've been travelling and you get anything that it resembles anything like flu, even if it's a slight headache, you get off to the medical professionals and you tell them, I've been to a malarious region, it is here, I have symptoms, what I consider of malaria, I want something done about it. Because we didn't have a great reaction, and I did tell the triage nurse exactly where Harry had been, and what I actually said to the triage nurse what I thought it was, and we still didn't have a very good reaction. So you need to be quite strong about this, and really the emphasis is on prevent it. Prevention is much better than trying to cure it, especially in a country that's not used to it.
Definitely. I know May is Malaria Awareness Week, but sometimes it sort of tends to dull into the background with the other things that go on, especially in young people's lives. What are you doing with this campaign? Is it an ongoing campaign?
Yes, it is an ongoing campaign. The week in May was just it's sort of the launch of it. It is something that is going across the board all the year round, just to try and bring the awareness right up with all the other things that you take for when you're going away, all the other injections. We want it to be really mainstream, so that it's an automatic thing. Must get malaria tablets so that when I go away I'll be safe and sound. Get my insect repellent, clothes to wear at dusk, and this sort of thing. But it's on the up really. We want to keep it up, buoyant with all the other issues that you have when travelling.
So to conclude then, really, anybody that's going to a malaria-infested region or possibly might be on the edges of it, you would insist that they get the right medical advice before they go?
Yeah, absolutely. From my experience, you can't go wrong if you're taking tablets that have been prescribed for the area you're in, and then you'll be safe and sound. It's not that difficult, and prevention is so much better than curing. So.
Many thanks to my guests who joined me on this travel show. Links to their websites will be found with the show notes on theoutdoorstation.co.uk. And should you have any feedback, comments, ideas or suggestions, please drop me a line at info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Next time, we'll be talking to people who have returned from a long trip overseas and discovering what they've learned about that part of the world, themselves and their plans for the future. Plus, of course, any hints and tips which may make it easier and more fun for you. So, until next time, folks, safe travels wherever you may go.
This independent programme has been brought to you by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.